When systems repeatedly signal you're the problem, people internalize that message. Public health research shows that self-blame in structural environments increases stress, disengagement, delayed care, and burnout. Design shapes not just behavior, but identity. And that's why this conversation matters. Have you ever struggled with something that everyone else seemed to navigate just fine? A form, a portal, a process, something that made you feel slow, confused, or somehow behind. And the most unsettling part wasn't the struggle itself. It was how invisible it felt. No explanation, no acknowledgement, just a quiet assumption that this is easy. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. In January, we talked about burnout, not as a personal failure, but as something shaped by systems, incentives, and expectations. And once you see burnout that way, another question becomes unavoidable. Who designed the systems we're burning out inside of? Because systems don't appear out of nowhere. They're built, designed, maintained, and design decisions, especially invisible ones, shape who moves easily through the world and who quietly struggles. This episode is part of a February series called Who Designs the Systems We Live Inside, where we're exploring how design, technology, and systems quietly shape who moves easily through the world and who doesn't. Today we're talking about design as power, and more importantly, design as a public health issue. You ever notice how a day can vanish inside a website? A portal, a form, a box that wants a number you don't have yet. You try the first password, then the second, then reset. Wait for the code, refresh, check spam. Another field turns red. Required, required, required. It's not dramatic, it's just friction everywhere. A drop-down that doesn't list your situation. A checkbox that wants a certainty you don't feel. A deadline that assumes your lunch break is flexible. A scanner that assumes you own a scanner. You get it wrong once, you get it wrong twice. You start wondering if you are the problem. You're not. The system smiles in small ways. It remembers other people's addresses. It autofills names that fit. It holds the door for the person it was built around. For the rest of us, it's a maze. Hold music that loops. An office that closes at 3:30, a chat assistant that can't hear you, a PDF that won't let you type your name where your name goes. You step away, breathe, come back, try a different browser, clear the cache, upload, fails at 98%, start over. None of this shows up on a spreadsheet, but it lives in a body, in the shoulders, the jaw, the sleep you don't get. Every tiny barrier asks the same quiet question. Do you have time? Do you have spoons? Do you have someone to watch the kids while you wait? And if you don't, the system says, come back when you do. This isn't about being smart enough or disciplined enough. It's about design choices that make some paths smooth and leave others paved with invisible tripwires. We call that administrative, paperwork, process, policy. But for a lot of people, it's the difference between getting care and giving up. Before we continue, a quick note. This episode is for informational and educational purposes only. I'm not offering medical advice. I'm not offering mental health advice. I'm not offering legal advice. I'm not offering professional advice. We're talking about systems. We're talking about design. We're talking about lived experience. This is not diagnosing individuals, and it's not telling anyone what they should do. If you're dealing with stress or burnout and your health concerns in your own life, it's important to consult a qualified professional who understands your situation. Design isn't just what you see, it's what you're guided to do. We often think of design as visual, colors, buttons, layouts, but design is really about decisions. What's easy, what's hard, what's required, what's optional, and who the system expects to show up already prepared. Research in human-computer interaction shows that defaults shape behavior more than choice. People follow what systems make easiest, not out of laziness, but because cognitive capacity is limited. Every extra step is a tax. Every missing step is a nudge. Design doesn't just reflect behavior, it directs it. So when a system works smoothly for some and poorly for others, that's not randomness. That's design doing its job, just not for everyone. A form with a narrow list of genders. A job portal that only accepts certain file types. A clinic website that assumes high-speed internet. These aren't glitches, they're choices that sort people. Neutral design would treat all needs the same. But there is no neutral, there are defaults. And defaults are values encoded. If we want different outcomes, we don't start by asking people to try harder. We start by changing what the system makes easy. Design exclusion is rarely dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as extra steps, unclear language, assumed knowledge, time requirements people don't have, cognitive load people can't afford. Public health research on cognitive load and chronic stress shows that when people are under sustained stress, their ability to navigate complex systems drops significantly. So when systems are designed for uninterrupted attention, high literacy, stable internet, and flexible time, they automatically exclude people who are caregivers, working multiple jobs, disabled, chronically ill, already exhausted. No one has to intend harm for harm to occur. I want to share a small moment, nothing dramatic, a form, a login, a user-friendly path. I was trying to do something simple, online on a break that wasn't really a break, and I kept getting stuck, not on the goal, but on the assumptions, hidden steps, a term I'd never seen, a timer that ran out while I looked for the right document. I remember staring at the screen thinking, why is this so hard for me? Then the more dangerous thought arrived. Everyone else seems fine. Maybe I'm just bad at this. Nothing crashed, no red alarm, just a quiet friction that turned into self-blame. That's the moment design becomes personal. Not because it failed loudly, but because it failed quietly and taught me to doubt myself instead of questioning the system. I want to stay with that moment for a little longer because what happened next wasn't dramatic. It was slow. After that interaction, I didn't think this system is poorly designed. I thought, why am I struggling with this? And that question followed me. I started noticing how quickly I blamed myself for friction, how often confusion turned into self-doubt, how rarely I questioned whether the system made sense at all. When systems fail loudly, we get angry. When they fail quietly, we turn inward. I didn't complain. I didn't escalate. I just tried harder. And over time, that effort added up. Not as stress, but as erosion. Confidence erodes. Curiosity erodes. Patience erodes. Until one day you're tired, not from work, but from constant self-correction. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't about learning a system. It was about carrying one. There's strong evidence that poorly designed systems increase stress responses. Studies in environmental psychology and health informatics show that confusing interfaces elevate cortisol. Uncertainty increases anxiety. Repeated friction contributes to decision fatigue. This isn't about inconvenience. Chronic exposure to poorly designed systems can worsen mental health outcomes, reduce engagement with care, and erode trust in institutions. Design doesn't just affect usability, it affects well-being. That makes it a public health issue. Let's breathe for a second. You know that phrase, it's really intuitive. Usually said by the person who built it. After 3 months of context inside jokes for labels, time to click every button twice. Nothing makes you feel more powerful than being told something is intuitive while you're actively failing at it. Create a password. Must be 12 characters, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, 1 symbol, one ancient rune, and the chorus from your favorite song. And prove you're not a robot. Select all images with a traffic light that's half a pixel tall behind a tree at night. Then the form says, error. What error? All of them. That's not a user problem. That's a design assumption problem. Relief is designable. Test with people who didn't build it. Name things how people say them. Reduce steps, then reduce them again. Make the right action obvious and safe to undo. Defaults that help. Feedback that calms. Good design doesn't just work. It lowers your heart rate. It gives you a tiny laugh, a tiny win, and permission to keep going. We laughed. Now the uncomfortable part. Most systems are built by people who don't live on the edge of access, and absence matters. When no one on the team uses a screen reader, white space feels clean instead of silent. When no one lives on prepaid data, a 40 megabyte app update feels normal. When no one juggles 2 jobs, a 30-minute onboarding feels thorough. When no one has chronic pain, tiny tap targets feel elegant. When no one has unstable housing, verify your address feels trivial. Research backs it. Homogeneous teams systematically underestimate friction for people unlike themselves. So exclusion isn't just intent, it's who was never in the room when decisions became defaults. Design is power, because defaults are laws that never needed a vote. Change the room, change the result, audit the room. Who's missing? Name it aloud. Shift power, not just presence. Real vetoes, real budget, paid participation. Expand where the room is. Bus stops, clinics, libraries, test in lived contexts. Make an assumptions log. Kill or validate each one with people affected. Add a harm review to every release with severity equal to performance bugs. Measure time to first success for the least resourced user. Optimize that. Write labels in the words people use. Keep what calms, remove what drains. Nothing about us without us is a design practice, not a slogan. Design isn't just what we ship. It's who decides what's safe to ship. Change the deciders, the interface will follow. If you've ever thought, why is this so hard for me? Everyone else seems to get it. I must be missing something. You probably aren't. You're likely inside a system that wasn't designed with your reality in mind. That's not a personal failure. That's a design choice you didn't get to vote on. Confusion is not a character flaw. Delay is not laziness. Workarounds are not weakness, they're evidence. If the path only works for people with time, money, bandwidth, or perfect hands, that's not your gap. That's a gap in the path. Try this. Rename the feeling. From I'm bad at this to this wasn't built for this. Ask, what does this design assume about me that isn't true? Notice where you shrink yourself to fit a screen. You don't have to. Your friction is data. Your exhaustion is a usability metric. Your no is a design requirement. If a tool costs you more than it gives, you're allowed to opt out. If you can't, you're allowed to ask for accommodations and expect them. If they say it's edge case, remember, edges are where people live. You are not the bug. You are the proof we need. Hold that mirror up gently. Keep what calms, remove what drains, and when you can, hand the mirror back to the room that ships the defaults so the next version recognizes you. I want to pause here and name something important. This is often the point where people get stuck. You hear everything we've been talking about, design systems, exclusion, and the next thought is, so what do I do about it? That question makes sense, but it can also skip something uncomfortable. Because before action comes orientation, and before orientation comes honesty. This episode isn't asking you to fix systems you didn't design. It's asking you to stop misdiagnosing yourself inside them. That distinction matters more than it sounds. If you need a place to stand, name the system, not yourself. Ask, what's mine to carry and what's the container? Collect your friction like evidence, not confessions. Let clarity, not shame, set the next step. Action can follow, but first, stand where you are without blaming your feet. We just named the difference between you and the container. Now, slow it down. Not to analyze, not to fix, just to notice. Think about the last system you touched today. Where did you feel sure? Where did you hesitate? Where did you guess what it wanted from you? Notice where the work showed up. Was it remembering steps, decoding language, managing emotions, filling in what wasn't explained? Now ask, did the system do any of that work for you? Or did you do it for the system? That transfer, the quiet slide of effort from design to person, is the moment design goes invisible. No verdict needed. Just track it. Collect it like evidence, not confessions. Let noticing be orientation. Let orientation be the ground. Action can come later. For now, see what you've been carrying. All that extra work you noticed? Your body pays for it first. Every moment of guessing, decoding, bracing. Your nervous system marks it. Micro spikes of stress stack into load. Load becomes fatigue. Fatigue becomes mistakes. Mistakes become blame. Over time, that's not a mood. That's biology. Sleep gets thinner. Blood pressure creeps. Cortisol forgets how to come down. Invisible design debt turns into time debt. Time debt turns into care delays. Delays turn into worse outcomes. Higher costs. Distrust. We call it burnout when it hits a person. We call it inefficiency when it hits an institution. The mechanism is the same. The container outsourced its work. This isn't abstract. Missed dose, the label hid the MG in fine print. Unpaid benefit, the form asked for what you couldn't possibly know. The teacher doing paperwork at midnight. The nurse double charting to satisfy two unaligned systems. The gig worker refreshing an app for hours because the rules are a rumor. Health is a social climate, not just a clinic visit. When systems make people carry their ambiguity, we widen gaps. Who has bandwidth, English stable Wi-Fi, a quiet room? That's not merit, that's exposure. The bill lands everywhere. In emergency rooms, in classrooms, in small businesses, in voting lines, in the carbon cost of rework. The bill is also trust. People stop believing that showing up helps. So, why notice? Because what you track, you can move. Shift effort back into design. Clear steps, plain language, fewer handoffs, defaults that protect. We lower stress at the scale of neighborhoods. Equity is not a speech, it's a lighter lift. You don't need a verdict to start. Map the slide of effort. Add it up. Put numbers on it. Minutes, clicks, calls, heartbeats. Bring it to the room where incentives live. The fix is not heroics, it's alignment. Health improves when systems do their share. Society steadies when trust has fewer holes. And the work you've been carrying becomes what it should have been all along. Design's job. In the next episode, I'll be sitting down with a UX designer who's also a philosopher and an organizational architect. We'll talk about responsibility under constraint, ethical design, what it means to build systems that don't quietly exhaust people. Not from a trends perspective, but from a human one. See you there. If this episode stirred something, confusion, recognition, relief, you don't need to fix it. But if you want a quiet place to sit with your own thoughts, I've created a small voice-led space called the Clarity Vault. It's not self-help. It's not productivity. It's simply space to hear yourself more clearly. No pressure. The link is in the show notes. And if you've ever felt slow, confused, or behind inside a system everyone else treats as easy, now you know where that feeling comes from. When the form ends, the work continues. Notice what's not on the page. Widen who's in the room. Meet the next system with a steadier breath.